Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Justin Young, and he is Josh Tech, and we've done some updates in our rankings for the class of 2024. We've seen a lot of basketball at the holiday events all over the country, and quite frankly, we needed to do this is our real first in-depth go round of a class of 2024 rankings. It's constantly getting bigger. We're adding more players by the day, but our top 100, Josh Tech, is established. We feel good about it as of January 18th. I'm sure by the time this pod's over, we'll have reason to dialogue some other changes that are going in, but we have it and we feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you just brought up that we're probably going to have dialogue about changing it again. It's just because I think you and I were both watching some film this morning. We're constantly kind of checking the landscape and being like, all right, well, I haven't seen this guy yet, or I haven't seen enough of this guy yet. I want a bigger sample size. I want to see player X play against the best team on his schedule. The only time I got to see them was playing against not like competition. So it's like, it's all things like that that keep expanding with this class for us. And like I just paused a really great game that I was watching to record. So that we're always in the process of evaluating.
Well, I think it's important to note too, we're not big on ranking guys really young either. And that's something where when we do it, we want to do it right. We don't want to create crazy expectations for young players and parents that are going through it maybe for the first time, where we want to make sure that, we're talking about guys that, we see players making some significant, physical changes, right? Growing 6 inches, and you go from being a point guard to a 4-man, and all these things that kind of happen, where this is, to me, my most comfortable place where we really do roll out a ranking is basically at the mid-semester break for the rising junior, or for the current junior class. And so we maybe be a little behind compared to others, but I feel really good about this, of really establishing where we're at. And I think too, also, you can kind of see there's more of a tier based rather than a numerical. I know you see on the website it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. But for us, we really think of it as tier based, and so we'll kind of break that down quite a bit as we kind of go through it. And so, really, I guess that's a good place to start, Josh. Is for this class of 2024, as we saw for the class of 2023, it was pretty hard to really come up with that top 10. How difficult was it for us in this same exercise for the class of 2024?
I think, generally it was kind of more difficult slotting in. I think we had a list of about 15 guys that could be top 10 candidates, but it was just difficult of, that nitpicky part of the job where it's like, all right, I think this guy's a little bit better than this guy. I think this guy's upside, is better than this guy's upside. So I think that's where it's really difficult. No one, at least in my estimation, has really solidified themselves as the guy, right? And that's kind of the woes we had with 2023 for a while after Isaiah Collier he kind of emerges that guy for us. But this class is still a little bit up in the air. I think, there are some guys that we like, as for sure these guys are top 10 guys. It's going to take a lot to knock them out of that top 10. But I think there's a lot of shuffling to be done within that top 10. I think we can see a lot of moving and shaking throughout the summer, throughout the next high school season. I don't know that this is going to be the order, permanently moving forward.
Well, let's talk about the order real quick. Let's explain who our top 10 is, and we'll kind of start there, kind of set a baseline. We've got Trey Johnson out of Lake Highlands High School in the Dallas, Texas area, a really significant combo guard, kind of a do-everything type of guard. Really like him, very solid across all the board. I went to Dallas to go watch him. I believe you saw him. Where'd you see Trey? Down in City of Palms?
Down in the City of Palms. That was a really good viewing because I got to see them play Newton. And Newton from Georgia is someone that a team that I get to see a lot. Sure. And I think really highly of a lot of their players. So getting to see Trey Johnson versus them in person was a really great kind of apples to apples comparison for me.
So let's revisit Trey Johnson. I do want some dialogue about him because I'm kind of stuck on a question surrounding him. But we like him number 1 overall. I think the industry also likes him number 1 overall. Coach's son, really smart, cerebral, really tough, competitive guy. So number 1 guy in the class of 2024, which I don't think comes as a big surprise to a lot of people. Number 2 is Dylan Harper, a player that we've talked about before here on the pod and different social media posts that we've shared before. The son of Ron Harper, the younger brother of Ron Harper Jr., out of New Jersey. Big wing, combo guard. I'm not sure what position he is. He's just freaking good, and you keep him there. We're going to talk about him here in a second as well. Fresh off a commitment to North Carolina, New York City guard Ian Jackson checks in at number 3. Coming in at number 4 is Flory Badunga, one of the most intimidating big men that we've seen in high school basketball in quite some time, and the MVP, co-MVP of the Pangos All-American Festival at the end of the summer, which to me, I think is one of those premier camps that we have in high school basketball. Bryson Tucker from formerly of IMG is what I should say, a big wing that can absolutely let it fly, and a player that when we talk about this top 10, I do wonder where does he shake up in the long term in our rankings. But right now he's at number 5, fresh off of a commitment to Rutgers, a guy that we know very well out of Metro Atlanta, out of McEachern High School, is Ace Bailey, one of the most dynamic and high upside guys. We've talked about it before, a player that we think could potentially be the number 1 player overall and superstar potential, no doubt about it, in high school hoops. Coming in at number 7 is a bit of a bet on the upside with Asen Newell out of Montverde, the native Floridian, as a player that we think long-term could be very, very good. And what you see from him now, we think will be way different than what you see from him this time next year out of Florida. And number 8 overall, the best nickname in all of the top 10, and Boogie Fland, a really dynamic guard out of Archbishop Stepanak out of New York. And number 9, Elliot Kadu, also headed to North Carolina, pairing up with Ian Jackson, making for a dynamic backcourt, a terrific point guard with some international flavor to him as well. And rounding things out, another Floridian in Carter Knox, 2 Ks in his name, so good. The younger brother of Kevin Knox of NBA fame rounds out our top 10. So we'll start there, Josh. We talked about Trey Johnson. Let me go back to that for a second. Who in the world is your player comp for him?
Oh God, dude, that you're setting me up for failure there. I'm terrible at player comps. I know you are the player comp kind of guy. Like, so let me throw that back at you. I
don't know. I'm asking you. I'm asking you because I really don't know. Like, I am so stumped on that because I really want to have an answer, and I don't feel comfortable. I get to Jamal Murray. Like, I'll watch Jamal Murray. I love, for the record, I love Jamal Murray. I think he's terrific.
Yeah, he's great.
I think Bubble Jamal Murray is probably one of the best players that I've seen in such a long time, and I think Trey Johnson's got that type of ability. Mm-hmm. But then when I say it out loud, I'm like, I don't know if I love it. I don't know if I love it.
Yeah, for me, like player comparisons, I don't really think about them too often. It's just it's just something that like snaps into place, right? Like, so it's like I haven't had that moment where it's like, oh, that guy he reminds me of blah blah blah. It's not something that I really sit down and think about. It's just something that kind of pops into my mind.
I take that as a compliment that you think I'm a player comp guy. I think I'm pretty.
Yeah, well, usually you kind of really have the history, right? So you can kind
of
you have like the Rolodex of like, oh, I can go back this far and think about blah 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 reminds me of this guy back in the mid 2000s or something like that. My Rolodex only goes back a couple of years, so that's why I think you're really more apt in that regard.
I comp Xavier Booker to Al-Farouq Aminu, and people were like, oh my God, I don't know if I love it. But I'm like, Al-Farouq Aminu was a top 5 guy in the country. So I get what you're saying. Like, there's some history there that allows you to kind of say stuff like that. But I don't know. If you're watching it after you've liked and subscribed the video and hit the bell and do all the things those kids tell you to do with YouTube videos, let us know below in the comments who you think Trey Johnson reminds you of. I'd love to hear it because I don't have a great answer. And I'm also not afraid to rip somebody else's idea off for a player comp. So I do think that's something. By the way, should we add player comps to our player profiles?
That wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, that could be fun. Like, it could just be like that's just like fun content, right?
That'll be a Josh Tech project. We'll get you to be a player comp guy before you know.
Yeah, hey, I wouldn't mind it. I just need to build up that mental Rolodex a little bit.
Fair. Well, you're getting there.
Yeah.
Dylan Harper, let's talk about him for a second, Josh. Number 2 overall. Man, we really like him a lot. We thought about him number 1 overall, to be quite honest with you. We had a lot of dialogue about that. Make the case for him to be the number 1 guy.
I think he just does so much on the floor, right? Like, he can pass it, scores it. He plays really cerebral basketball. He has that lineage. He's got the toughness. He's got just like the wide ranging, he checks all the boxes kind of game, right? So I think, it's just, he's another one of those guys where it's like, with a little bit more to the resume, I think he can end up being in that number 1 spot. He's already, building up a really great resume. He had the New York Rens in the Peach Jam 16U finals. He just won with Don Bosco Prep at the John Wall. He was the MVP of that event. So I think, a couple more things like that under his belt, it's going to be kind of hard to not justify him as the number 1 candidate in the 2024 class.
Yeah, the more I watch of him, the more I'm like, man, this dude's going to be really fun to watch in the NBA. And we see that type of guy now really thriving in the NBA too. Those big power wings that are versatile, that can pass, can shoot. Can really do a lot of things on the floor. Okay, let's play a little game buy or sell for a second. Okay, Josh, let's play buy or sell. Let's put our buy or sell hats on. Buy or sell. We will reshuffle the top 10 at least 5 times before it's all said and done for this class.
Yeah, I'll buy that. So every time I look at it, I'm like, yeah, maybe we could reshuffle this here and there. I'm already thinking about reshuffling it. So
they reshuffle by the time the show's over today, honestly.
Yeah, for real. I have it pulled up right in front of me. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm buying that for sure. What about you?
Yeah, I am buying it too. I think that's okay too. I think that's okay to be pretty fluid, and I actually like the idea where we update pretty often. We don't announce it per se, like make big announcements. Only we really do it when we do like some significant, repainting and redesigning of the house. But we'll move a guy here and move a guy there, up or down, based on some stuff. But I mean, I think when you look at this class, let's pivot a little bit. As of right now, am I crazy to think, or let's play buy or sell, keep it going. Buy or sell, these are really the 3 contenders right now for our number 1 class, and that is obviously Trey Johnson, Dylan Harper, and I think Ace Bailey. And that's not to knock Bryson Tucker, Floyd Badunga, Ian Jackson. And people will say, well, why the heck don't you have Ace Bailey ranked higher? But are you buying and selling as of right now? Those are the 3 candidates that could be number 1.
Yeah, I'm buying that. Yeah, I think Ace Bailey is purely upside talent based right now, and it's one of those kind of, I keep bringing this up, but just keep adding to that resume and make it impossible for us to keep you out of that spot, right? So
yeah, maybe there's a bias too because we see him so much that he is graded with a little tougher, grading scale, perhaps.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, he's right here in my backyard, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes from my house. So yeah, I do see him quite often, and yeah, he does kind of get that tougher grading scale like you brought up.
Yeah, that's all right. Okay, here's another question then. Who are we too low on when we look at our class of 2024 rankings? And I think we can extend this out now to our 5-star. When you hear the term 5-star, just a little definition. For me, it's always been the top 25. That's how we have always rated it. That's how we always determine who got 5 stars versus who got 4 stars. So 25 got 5, number 26 got 4, and that's where the breakoff was. So 26 to 100 was always our 4-star range. And that's kind of how, when you hear those words that are being tossed about, that's kind of where my head's at. So to that end, I think there are some players that maybe we might be too low on, and let me kind of run through a couple. And you saw Derek Queen. You've seen Derek Queen quite a bit from Montverde, and I know Griffin Greenberg, a guy that we like and is a part of our staff out here on the West Coast, has been traveling all over the country watching the NIBC. Said that Derek Queen, quite frankly, was the best player in Indiana for the NIBC stop. And when Derek Queen is at his very best, he is unstoppable down low.
Yeah, seriously.
Could he also be one of those guys that we move up significantly based on, what we've talked about for a guy like Ace Bailey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Derek Queen just does so much in the paint. I think, and he is adding some versatility to his game. Last time I saw him on Bird, he was, stepping out, hitting some threes, making some plays off the bounce from out in the perimeter. So I think as he continues to add some of that to his repertoire while still maintaining that dominance around the basket, like inside the arc, I think, yeah, he's a guy that could reach 5-star status for us right now.
Well, he is 5-star. I mean, he's at number 16 overall, but he could be a guy that we cracked back into the top 10. I mean, at one point, he was a top 3 guy, even number 1 guy by ESPN. So you can kind of take that for what you want. 2 other guys that I think we may be too low on long term is Zoom Diallo out of the Tacoma, Washington area. Big guard, 6'4", 6'5", plays for elite prep. I personally need to get some more eyeballs on him, see him a little bit more. But talking to some NBA guys, I think that's a common conversation about Zoom Diallo being a player that could be in this category as well, of being something that we have too low. And then also Carter Bryant out of California, big forward, kind of this typical modern day forward, like a Tatum type, right, where he can put the ball on the floor, he can really pass, he can shoot it, and we may have him a little bit too low, quite frankly. And I'll admit that, number 20 overall, but to be top 20 in the country is pretty freaking good. Let's pivot a little bit, Josh. There are a couple of guys though that we are very high on compared to the country. Tell me about a couple of guys in the rankings that, when we look at our list compared to everybody else, who are we higher on compared to the industry?
Yeah, I think you look at the number 17 spot, LeBaron Philon out of Alabama. We've got to see him a lot, right? He played one of the funniest things I got to see over the travel season was LeBaron playing at our Bama Jam out there in Birmingham or in Hoover. He played with 2 AAU teams on that weekend.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he let that happen, quite frankly.
Yeah, I don't know, but I remember looking, watching him one day, being like, oh, okay, cool, this guy's really great, blah blah blah. And I saw him the next day. I was like, I had to do a double take. I was like, oh, okay. So I thought that was really just a really funny kind of weird moment, right? It was an oddity in basketball.
Sure.
So yeah, but during the high school season, our guy Garrett Tucker's gotten to see him a lot, and Fileman's out there just crushing it in Alabama, and he could be getting that. We've gotten to see him a lot, so we're kind of higher on him than the consensus. But I think he's also deserved this jump that he's gotten because he's like one of the leading scorers in the nation, right? Like he's averaging probably over 30 points a game. He's just really dominating.
I mean, if there's a theme in the NBA right now, it's about go getting buckets, and LeBaron Phelan does that as well as anybody, like you said, in the nation. Number 17 might be a little too high, no question about it, but we kind of like what we like, and a guy that we feel pretty good on hedging our bets out of Southern Alabama, down in Mobile, a guy that I think has a chance to be really, really good. Who else is on this list that maybe we have higher than everybody else?
You gotta go to Asheville, North Carolina, home of our man Justin Byerly for Rakees Passmore. We have him at number 25. I think his jump has also been warranted. That's been shown in his recruitment, right? Like we've kind of seen the highest of blue bloods go after him, right? He just went on a visit to Duke. Duke's been recruiting him, and he's gotten, his recruitment's elevated to that level. And that's just a guy that we've seen at our camps, we've seen at our events. We've kind of gotten really good eyes on over the past several years, and that's a guy that we've always really been high on compared to the industry.
If you are a player you really want to catch our attention, come to our preview camp, seriously. And that sets a baseline that is as good as anything that we do because it gives us a chance to really see who you are as a competitor. And we can take you to the moon if you do your work, like literally.
Yeah, I remember being at the South Carolina preview camp, and that was the first time I got to see Passmore. And before he even played, JB, Justin Byerly, was like, hey, man, you got to keep an eye on this guy. I think he's going to be really good. And at that camp, he was, the MVP. He followed that up a couple weeks later with an MVP at our North Carolina camp, and then just been on a skyrocket since then.
To the moon, man, to the moon. So here are two guys inside of our top 25. Not ironic enough that they were both phenomenal at our preview camps as well as some of our other events. So guys that we've seen quite a bit, and this happens all the time, man. It happens all the time. We have guys that plan our platform that a year later, another person on a national site says, "Oh my gosh, I got this sleeper." You're like, "Man, we've been talking about this guy for like the last 18 months." So he's not new to the table, and I think these guys certainly fall in that category.
There's another guy in this class that we'll probably talk about at some point that fits that mold.
Who?
Qual Attack.
Oh, no question. Yeah, no question. A guy that I think we put in our top 50 or maybe just outside of it after the summertime.
He's just right outside of it. I think he's in the around 55 to 60 range.
I went and saw him again in Dallas, and the guy absolutely got into a flamethrowing contest with Dink Pate, who we have at number 19 overall. Another big wing that can absolutely shoot. But yeah, Qual Attack is a guy for 3D Empire. History has shown, listen, Anthony Black, Garrick Norman. And so now I think this year coming up is Qual Attack's turn to be that guy to really kind of be a riser. So I'm with you. It's been funny to see other national services put him in their rankings, sometimes sight unseen, which we do as well. I mean, I'm not going to try to shrink away from that, but it certainly is a name that is somebody that we need to really pay close attention to in Scholastic as we get closer to the spring. Let's talk about, speaking of risers, let's stay in that category. Dedan Thomas is a player that we've talked about quite a bit already for Liberty High School out of Las Vegas. We moved him up to number 18 overall. I'm absolutely in love with his game. I love what he brings to the table. There's a winning quality, winning DNA, winning mentality, competitor, can get buckets. Kind of a Jalen Brunson meets Chris Paul type of guard, which, man, I don't know if you can get this much.
Yeah, you don't get much better than that. That's great.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And I don't hand those out lightly either. I'm a big fan of Dedan Thomas, so he's number 18 overall. Looking over at my notes, also a guy. Let's talk about Darian Reed. We've talked about him a lot behind the scenes, and I want to rewind a little bit to where Ace Bailey and Darian Reed played each other at Holiday Hoopsgiving. And the first quarter of film that I watched, Josh, I mean, it was about as good of a film that I've seen for both guys. Darian Reed, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but you were like, I don't know, should we put him that high? And you had a little bit of reservation, in large part because I think you're protective of what you've seen. But let me find exactly where we have him listed here.
We have him at 36.
We have him at 36. I actually think he could be higher than that, to be quite frankly. And then I think that's where we kind of balance at number 36. But I think comparative to the industry, Darian Reed at number 36 is as high as anybody has him. But like, why? I mean, we've talked about why we like him so much, but am I crazy to think that he could be a top 25 guy? Honestly,
he could be, certainly. I just, like you said, I am a little bit protective of that just because I've seen him so much, and like he's kind of playing off my radar a little bit right now over at Grovetown. They've gotten into region play, and I think they're kind of handling their business over there, out there. So when it comes state playoff time, I'll kind of get back into the Grovetown groove, I guess is what you can call it, and I'll be able to kind of assess Darion more then. But he is a guy that could jump up into that range just because he fits that wing that does a little bit of everything, that mold. And what really sells him to me as an upside guy is his ability to make plays, right? He's a phenomenal passer. I think that is part of his game that goes underrated. And on defense, he's really, competitive. In that game that you brought up against Ace Bailey, he kind of took that matchup to heart, and he kind of really did a really great job on Ace Bailey from, beyond the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, before Reed, exited the game with cramping. So I think his competitiveness is really kind of something that sells me on a lot too.
I was watching Florida State the other day, and Matthew Cleveland was balling out. Has been playing really, really well. And I was like, that's Darion Reed. That's Darion Reed. That's his game. That's his style of game. And Matthew Cleveland was a guy that we had listed in our top 25. So I'm holding out hope on Darion Reed. I really like him a lot. To your point, where he did take it personal against a guy like Ace Bailey, who also played really, really well in that first half of that game. And I like a guy that wants to be competitive. And so, yeah, no question, the losses are certainly something to pay attention to for Grovetown. But excuse me, I think that Darion Reed, to me, I'll hedge my bets on a guy like that wants to get up for those types of matchups. So I think he's in store for warranted eyeballs in the springtime when travel ball comes around, because I think he's got a chance to be very, very good. Let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk a little geography. My wife's in education. We were talking the other day at dinner. She's in charge of the spelling bee for their district, and she said, "Oh, we're not doing the geography bee," which I didn't know was a thing. But I told her, I said, if I was a kid and if we had the geography bee, I would have dominated it. I love geography. I love geography, particularly with recruiting and evaluating. I love to see where guys are at. And you could ask me, actually, I don't want to put myself on the spot here. I was going to say, you could ask me any state, I could tell you the state capital. But you'll probably pick like the one that I totally draw a blank on.
I might be able to do that. I used to have them down pat, but I still think I have a pretty good grasp on them. But yeah, geography is also something that I'm into. I was just thinking about it. I was like, yeah, I think I could do that.
I think so. I think we need to have a HoopSeen geography as part of our new offerings coming up. Anyways, here's a fascinating stat. So our top 100, okay, our top 100 guys. How many states? Well, let me think about this question. 60 players, 60 of those 100. Okay.
Okay.
3/5 are from 6 states.
I thought you said this was gonna be geography and not math. That 3/5. I was like, in my head, I was like, what the hell is 3/5?
Yeah, fair. Georgia has 13. Now, Georgia's a little bit of an asterisk because of overtime elite and guys that are there. And I think you could say the same thing for some of these other states that we're going to talk about. North Carolina has 12. Florida and California both have 10. Arizona has 8, also another prep school state. And Texas has 7, which quite frankly may be too low. But of those states, 60 of those players in our top 100 come from those 6 states. That's phenomenal to me.
Yeah. I think the one for me that I really look at is North Carolina, because like you said, some of these other states, you have to factor in certain things. Texas is so massive with a lot of metropolitan areas that produce a lot of talent. Yeah. Florida and Arizona both have a lot of prep schools. California is also kind of like Texas, where it's really big, has a lot of metropolitan areas. And then, like you said, Georgia has the overtime elite mixed in with just the Atlanta area talent. But for me, that North Carolina is a lot of homegrown kind of stuff. For sure, there are a couple prep schools. There are a couple guys who transferred in from out of state. But if you look through it, a lot of those guys are going to traditional high schools. So I think that's, that's a really impressive feat for North Carolina to have that many.
Yeah, and guys have also left North Carolina to go
Yeah.
to prep schools out of state too. So that number is a little bit flawed as well. And when we say that they're from that state, we quantify those states by the high school that they are playing in at the moment.
Yeah.
So you could be from Louisville, Kentucky, playing at a prep school in Texas. We're counting you towards our Texas count, not Kentucky count, just to be clear. So, which really, if you think about historically, this is not surprising. These are our traditional states that create so many high-level prospects. And I think you can look at this for any sport, honestly, that these are the states that usually dominate no matter what. But one part of it that I'm with you was the homegrown part of North Carolina. But let me throw another buy and sell at you here as we kind of wrap things up here on the class of 2024 rankings overview. Buy or sell, the Northeast is back.
No, I'm buying that. Like that's a little bit of a blind spot area for me because I'm so focused on the South. That's an area they have to watch a lot of film on. And every time I watch film on guys from that area, I just leave so impressed. I think I text you like pretty much all the time about how much I love guys from the DMV up, right? I think that area produces a lot of really tough talent, and I just really love that style of play. So yeah, I think it's back.
Well, I think New York and New Jersey and people from up there say, well, where did it go and never left, which I think is fair. But I think when you look at New York City basketball, particularly, guys are leaving to go to prep schools up in New England, or they're going to IMG, they're going to Montverde, and that, like schools like that. But now, I mean, you've got, like let's look, Dylan Harper, New Jersey, right? Ian Jackson, New York. Ace Bailey's going to Rutgers, so I think that element's interesting. Boogie Flan from New York. Elliot Kadoof is not at a school there, but from that area. And so I think when you look at our top 10,
Naz Cunningham is also from that New Jersey area.
Right, exactly, playing down overtime late. And so, it's interesting to see like this. I don't want to say resurgence because that's saying that it was like almost like a ghost town, but New Jersey, New York, to me, when basketball is at its very best, we've got high level players coming out of that area.
That's one of the hottest beds in recruiting right now. I think that's what we're saying. We're not saying that it went away or anything like that.
That's it.
That has emerged as one of the, oh my God, like if you're getting a guy from that area right now, like you're getting one of the top prospects. And I think you can see that across the 2023, 2024, and 2025 classes, that area is really, really hot right now.
I'm working on some other projects that you'll see soon on HoopSeen.com about some old stuff, like the mid 2000s, right? And I think in that era, man, California dominated high school basketball. Because if you look at the NBA now, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Klay Thompson, and who else was in this thing that I was looking at the other day? Oh, Brandon Jennings, who was an absolute superstar coming out of high school. And the NBA is riddled with so many studs. Russell Westbrook, so many studs from that Los Angeles area, Southern California area, that when I think we look forward ahead, that Northeastern flavor, at least for the class of 2024, despite North Carolina being so good, despite Georgia, Florida, Texas, all those places being so good as well, the Northeast flavor is really, really strong, which is not a surprise why you see schools like Connecticut making a bit of a resurgence, right? Coming back. Rutgers making a resurgence, even though they're recruiting nationally. So it is interesting to see a pivot kind of going back to maybe like these old Big East types of days. So that would be a theme that I think we're going to be watching pretty closely here in the class of 2024. Make sure you just Google HoopSeen 2024 national rankings. That'll send you right to our rankings page on hoopseen.com. We have about 125 players ranked. Heck, maybe by the time we go publish this video, we're going to have 165 players. So it just depends on how comfortable we are getting a player up there. We're watching a ton of film and seeing a ton of basketball. But make sure you like and subscribe this video, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell so every time we update videos, you'll have an update coming right to your phone, wherever you get your videos. How do you watch YouTube? Do you watch it on your phone, iPad, Xbox? How do you consume it?
I watch it on my TV a lot, being quite honest. Like if I'm in that kind of mode where it's like I don't really want to watch a full movie, I don't really watch a lot of TV unless it's like live sporting events. I'll go to YouTube and just kind of watch, 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute clips of things on there. So that's where I watch it the most is on my TV.
Well, wherever you watch it, we appreciate you doing it, and we appreciate you subscribing to this channel. We've seen it grow substantially since we've been pretty regular in our pods. If you got any suggestions, tell us we're idiots. I know, believe me, I know that you want to. So feel free to drop in the comments below. We read all of them, and we may not respond to them all, but we'll definitely read them and get a good laugh. So we appreciate you watching. For Josh Check, I'm Justin Young. We'll see you next time right here on HoopSeen TV.